Hi, and welcome to this episode of The Purpose Earn. My name is Ingraud, and today I have the immense pleasure to welcome Jackie Porter here. Hi, Jackie.
Hello, good to be here.
Good to have you, because today we're actually talking about one thing that always comes up in the conversations that I have, which is, I'm interested in doing something more meaningful, more purposeful with my life, but I don't think I can afford that, or some version of it. And the interesting thing about Jackie is not only is she a financial planner with years of experience, but she has also gone through a tremendous amount of change and transitions herself. With that, Jackie, can you tell us a little bit about what you are doing and what you offer as a professional at this point in time?
I love working with particularly women, but men too, but basically people who want to get more comfortable, more clear about their financial circumstances so they can live the life they truly want. And mid-career is one of those times where people kind of go, I'm working and I'm making a living, but I don't necessarily have a life. And I'm not necessarily feeling purposeful. And there's something that happens, especially with women mid-career, where they start to realize maybe I'm not doing the things I really want. Maybe I've been told that these are the things I want, but now I'm at the point where my inner person, there's an inner voice saying these aren't the things I should be doing. And then but they just don't, as you mentioned, and go have the confidence to kind of go out on their own and say, where am I financially and what's possible with my financial circumstance? And I love showing people possibilities. Like, I think when you know your numbers, the possibilities are what are endless. They're really endless. And it's just based on making decisions around that. So helping people to make those confident decisions based on having a much clearer understanding of where they are is my jam. I love doing that. I could do that every day, all day.
I love that. I love the passion that comes across when you talk about this. Now, one thing that comes up for me immediately is with what confidence you say, when people know their numbers, their opportunities are endless. And that sounds a little bit like a too general, too good to be true kind of statement. But I also know that you have the experience, your lived experience from going through a couple of changes yourself. And
Couple.
I wonder how that played out for you. Did you feel like the possibilities are endless? Did you feel like I have enough?
Well, I'm the queen of transition. I've had so many life changes that have happened. And we were kind of talking about this offline a little bit before, but just even if I think about even my birth, like coming into this world, I was created in Jamaica, but born in Canada. And my mother came here as a domestic. She didn't even realize she was pregnant with me. So she was a single mom. But at the time, she was, just getting her first job as a domestic, 6 months pregnant with me, surprise, surprise, and had to tell her employer that she was going to have a baby. And, they welcomed me with open arms. In fact, I didn't get to tell you this and go, but they said to her, we'll help you. They were so helpful that they actually wanted to adopt me from under my mom. So that created a whole new set of circumstances that led to, in the middle of the night, my mom putting me on a plane to Jamaica, back to Jamaica to be with my family in Jamaica. And then I stayed there until at 7. My mom came back and got me and brought me back to Canada. So I've had just like in those 7 years of my life, because I came back at 7. And sadly, I got a chance to be with my mom until I was about 16. My mother passed away at 16 when I turned 16. Other transitions. I've had so many different stages. So at that point, I was learning to do a lot of adult things, including how to pay bill, how to, manage work and school. So I was learning on the job really so many life lessons. I mean, I wouldn't wish that for anybody, but I'm very grateful that my mother was the kind of person who gave me the ethos to learn hard work and those things and being very disciplined with money. She came here as a single person, being really, really careful with money and instilling those values in me is really what got me through. And then, my fourth transition, let's say, was when I got my first full-time job and then got downsized from my first full-time job 5 years in. So this was in my 20s after graduating from university, working jobs to get through that. And really at that point in time, leaving that job, the thing that I came away with was the confidence to know all the times that I had to figure out how to pay the bills and keep a roof over my head while going to school, that this was actually an opportunity for me. It wasn't actually something I was scared of because I thought, first of all, they're giving me money to leave. And I've always only ever worked with whatever I could save and manage to navigate. So many transitions for me helped me learn the value of a dollar. So I became really confident with money because I had no choice. And I always say to women and even to people who I talk to who don't feel confident about money, just keep working with it. The longer you work with it, that's how my confidence came is having to figure this out early. I think my figure it out of this is what I call it around money is just a muscle that most people need to stretch to feel more confident. So getting this package really gave me the opportunity to think about what did I really want to do with my life? And somehow or another, I stumbled into the financial industry when I had this package and had to figure out what to do with it. And I had the luxury of meeting a woman who said to me, another advisor, she said to me, over the course of your life, you could earn $1 million and everybody could benefit from that money, but you. And that actually really, really struck me because I thought, I've been working so hard the last 10 years. I would have been 30, 26 at the time. And I thought the next 10 years of my life, I could make a significant amount of income. What do I want to do with it? And I also never heard this whole concept of money working for me versus working for money. That's one of the things she said to me that completely blew my mind because I've worked so hard and as immigrants, that's kind of what we learn is to make to work for money, not to have money work for you. So all of this to say, I just thought I want to learn everything I can about how to make money work for me. And that's literally the transition that actually was responsible for was deciding I wanted to be somebody who is an entrepreneur who figured out how to make money work for me. And I ended up teaching other people about this as I went along the way, but it really started with me.
Wow. Yeah, it's fascinating how sometimes the things that we have an emotional connection to and we're interested in end up becoming the starting point for our future and for the careers and for what we, in your case, are very passionate about and even assume advocacy for. Um, I'm curious when you realized, okay, this what this woman says gave me new perspective, sounds true to me. Do you still remember the immediate next steps? How did you get started? Because you said you had a little bit of money to start out that paid you
Yeah, that
severance.
that package helped because I never had that much money available. I mean, working these 5 years at Bell gave me an opportunity to do a lot of saving. I was a very, very good saver.
Hmm.
Because I was so used to living on next to nothing that I became a really good saver. And then I got this package. So I just sort of had that runway to kind of figure out how I was going to actually exist in this business. I got my licenses during that time period. And then just one thing led to another. I think, I have the background and the values of people who come here as immigrants. And immigrants, I have a lot of immigrants in my practice, like every kind of culture you can imagine. And it's a very similar perspective around working really hard for money. And we have this tendency as immigrants to brag about how hard we work for money versus what I found when I started to understand how wealthy people think and understand, like, learn more about wealth is that wealthy people talk about money working for them and how long money can work for them without them having to work. Wealthy millionaires will say, if I have $1 million, how many years before I'd ever have to work again? And just having that mindset, just having that shift, thinking of your money as employees versus you being the employee and working for the money, I think is a game changer. So for me, when I started to understand that, I was like, okay, what are the different ways I can actually leverage money to work for me? Well, one is I started to purchase property to create an income stream for me. I started to buy into the stocks, into investments, and started to see the power of compounding, of seeing all these things accumulate over time versus if I had just worked and saved and had that money just be there, I would still be the person working for my money. So at this point, just over that time period, I was able to build a seven-figure net worth literally from nothing. Because as I said, I don't come from privilege means. I talked to you about my mother who's a domestic. So yeah, we had nothing to show for it, but mindset is powerful. It can really shift how you show up in the world and how money shows up for you.
It's interesting how you made the obstacle the way in what you described, because a lot of people would describe this as the obstacle. I don't have money I can invest, let alone enough money to retire from my day job or afford me the luxury to think about doing something else because I might, for example, have kids in college. I might have elderly parents I need to care about. My burn rate is I don't know even what my burn rate is, but I know it's not enough because every month I look at my credit card bill and I know it's not enough. So where would you even start in that scenario, making money work for you?
I empathize with those people. I'm really glad I grew up in a time where we didn't have something one of my business coaches called comparisonitis as much as we have it today, right? With Instagram and everybody showing very, very boldly what they have. I was, as I mentioned to you, because I had no choice. I think when you have that mentality, it's only you. You're responsible for yourself. There's no backup plan. There's no plan B. You approach money differently. So I was a very, very good saver. I had no choice. I was my backup plan. So I was very, very, very in tune with where my money was going. And I was really good at not spending money. I remember when I saved up for my very first home. I have several now, but at the time I had my very first home, I did not buy literally anything that year that I didn't need. Like I don't know if I could, that amount of discipline was crazy. I don't know if I could do it today. But I did not buy what I didn't need because I was committed to, as an immigrant, especially, you know, growing up on my own so early and being renting from other people and being really subject to being somebody else's tenant. I was very, very clear that I wanted to be the landlord. So that was one of the reasons I bought property was I wanted to be the person who decided who got to rent my place versus being the person who had to depend on other people for their desire to rent to me. So I think you have to really be committed to like, what are you trying to accomplish? Be really clear because the reason I was able to, get over that time period where, some of my friends, I was in my 20s, some of my friends wanted to go out to eat and do all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I can't afford that, but if you guys want to come over and do a potluck, we could do something over here. But it all starts with being clear about what your desire is. And I really believe in manifestation. I had a vision board of the things I wanted on my fridge. So I knew I wanted my own property. I wanted to be free and not be worrying all the time. I didn't know what all these things meant, but I wrote them all down and it made me really clear. So when I was making decisions about the choices I wanted, I could sort of think about if that was going to be in alignment with those goals.
Hmm.
So I think those are the key things is look really closely on where your money is going and is it aligned with what
Yeah.
you're trying to.
And what I also hear is that for you, it was very important to be crystal clear of what's most important to you in your life so that the everyday little urgent moments wouldn't stop you from building towards what you ultimately wanted.
1,000%. And that's probably why I feel sorry for the people who are, on social media and it's so much easier to get distracted, which means you have to be that much more diligent on what you want, what's important to you, not what other people think's important, but what's truly important to you. Write it down, have it close by, and think about each day those decisions that you're making, spending decisions, choices of all kinds, how aligned they are with those.
Right. So you can start investing in you. And I think one thing that I learned from the founder of Wealth Simple, I was at a conference once where he spoke, and he said, what a lot of people don't realize, the first investment that they make is not the 10% they save from their monthly salary. It's actually their time, how they invest their time. And I think what you said is kind of in a similar vein in that it's very important to understand where do I focus my time, energy, and money, because that will compound over time.
That absolutely will. Absolutely will. And I was gonna say, so you kind of have to think, do I want to? And I'm on social media because of my business, but do I want to be on social media where I'm seeing, how people so-called are living? I can tell you the backstory because I see their finances and the credit card debt is real. So what you see online isn't necessarily what's always real, right? The
Right.
people who are often wealthy are the millionaires next door that you'll never see bragging on what they
Mm.
spend. In fact, they could afford it, but they never want to spend money that way because they want to be very intentional about where their money is going. You have to think about going back to what you said about time, am I investing my time in the right things? So am I taking courses? AI is a big thing right now. Am I taking courses that could help build my career or help me to earn more income? So it all depends on how you focus your time. But first of all, what are your goals? And are your goals aligned with how you're spending your time, your money, and your attention?
So let's try an hypothetical case. And I'm not referring to anybody in particular, but it's a little bit of a summary of people that I've spoken to over the month and years. Let's assume the person is working for a large corporate. She has two kids, has a husband. She's the breadwinner in the family. The kids are in college. The parents are aging, slightly worried about their health and where that is going. And at the same time, feeling what I have isn't it, but I also don't have the time to think about what it is. And I feel like in order to get the time, I would need to take a break, but I don't think I can afford a break because of the income and my spending that I have each month. And so I keep on being caught up, and every now and then over a glass of wine or when I talk to a friend, that conversation flares up, but I keep on finding myself in that loop and there's no way out. As a financial planner and somebody with, like, I mean, you have talked to so many people. What's the first thing that you would recommend that person does?
I feel like the first thing is they would need to get clear on what they want because it's going to be hard to be committed to something because it will mean you'll have to make decisions again that are aligned with what you want. So that little voice that says, I'm not happy, the question becomes, what do you want to do? And if what you really want to do right now is take time off to figure that out, and if that's a priority, if that's what you're saying the decision is right now, taking the decision of I really need to take some time off to determine what I want the next part of my life to look like. And I've had clients do that. Like I've had clients who said, I want to just take a year off and take a sabbatical off and then figure it out. Then from there, that's where the real work begins because we really have to take a deeper dive into your financial circumstances. Like how much debt are you in? How much money do you bring in every month? How much is going out? And is it actually going out to things that are aligned with what you need? Are you wasting money? Because, and I don't want to harp on things like coffee because there's so many things that people have in their budget that could be unique to them, or it could be something that they are like hard line. I can get rid of other things, but I can't get rid of this. I can tell you about a client that I dealt with who he was an executive at a firm and he was going to actually be leaving that firm because he wanted to go back to grad school and start a brand new career. So
Wow.
he was going to go from like a six-figure job to earning like $40,000. Could he do it? He did it. He absolutely did it. We actually created a plan, and it was really about him saying, I want to keep my photography. That's something that's really important to me. I want to go out to dinner a couple times a month. That's important to me because I'm single. I want to have that social time. But some of the other things, like he ended up decided he wanted to get a smaller apartment in his a condo unit. He is able to bring his budget down to 40K because he wanted to get into this graduate program. And here's the funny thing, Ingo. After we did all of that, he left his job. We did this. He didn't get into the program.
So what did he do?
You know what? This is why I'm mentioning it's all about what you decide. He was thrilled because what he really wanted was to be an entrepreneur and start this grad program was kind of like the gateway into him becoming an entrepreneur in this space based on
Mm,
that program. So now he realized he could live on 40K. He could earn that as an entrepreneur, and he was able to do that.
mm.
So that's the lesson.
I love that story, but I want to push a little bit back here because if I tell the story to somebody who has two kids and aging parents and
Yeah, but
like,
I mentioned finances because we also have to look at what's the aging parents' finances look like. How are you supporting them? How are you going to expect to support them in the future? What's your finance? So again,
mm,
going back to we really have to look at the numbers, see what's important to that person, and figure out how we can make the budget work. We can make things work, but it's all about the decisions you're going to take. And how important is it then you come back to the question of how important that sabbatical is. It's kind of like the person who says to me, you know what? I really want to retire at 65. We do a plan, and it turns out they can't afford to retire unless they retire at 67. Or they can work part time to get to retire at 65, or they can take more risk with their investments, or, depending on how important that
I think what becomes very clear to me in the way you think about this strategically is that for you, it all starts with staring finances in the face and being very clear about the reality that you are facing and what is like necessary and what is nice to have.
That's
And
right.
then based on that, get a sense of opportunity, not of wishful thinking, but a real opportunity that might be right in front of you or not, right? With that, also adjust and find maybe possibility.
Exactly. Because there are possibilities, but it starts with mindset, right? So this person that you're talking about who's got 2 children, they're off in university. So that could mean that financially she has less obligations. They're not spending as much on groceries at home. Trust me. I have those clients who have those kids at home, and it's a very large grocery bill. Maybe they're at home, but then I don't know what programs are they in at school. Are they in like a graduate program? I had some clients who they had kids away at school at Harvard. That was a very expensive proposition. So it really does depend like on a bunch of different factors, but that desire to have the time off, if it's like now overflowing and she's like, I'm not wanting to go in this path anymore. This is something I want to do. It can be done. But what decisions do we need to make? How willing is she to take a serious look at her finances to figure it out and then discuss options?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
I
not
love that.
prescriptive. It's not prescriptive by any
It's
means.
it's not prescriptive. And in your explanation, I also understood something that maybe is something worth looking into in terms of when we already decided our situation is hopeless. It is hopeless. But
Correct.
as soon as we start to face it, we actually discover opportunity, right? So to your point, like how much time do you actually need? Well, for most people, that's probably I don't know. Okay, so because of what? Because you don't know how long it takes to get clarity. So maybe figuring out what's the best way to get clarity. How much time do I need in order to make the time investment? And maybe to your point, you don't even have to take X month off. Maybe it's just taking an unpaid vacation.
That
Or
it could be a month, it could be a few weeks. My girlfriend has this concept that she came up with called a micro vacation, which could be anywhere from 12 to 24 hours away. Could you
hmm,
add that into your week every week? And so that you have some time to do some decompressing and figuring out your goals and what your values are. I love that term, like the
a micro
vacation,
vacation.
because it just means that's a shift she can make that's not necessarily going to be a huge financial cost to her. It could be, as you said, it could be vacation time, or it could be, we put money aside so she takes a 4 day, she does a 4 day work week. Whatever the case is, it really starts with you being clear
Mm,
on what the priority it is and how important that priority is to you. Another one of my favorite sayings is I've never met a pessimistic entrepreneur, especially wealthy pessimistic entrepreneurs
yeah,
don't
yeah,
exist.
don't
So you
exist.
kind of have to start with that growth mindset.
And also like the recognizing that the first step might not be executing on a plan. I think that's where we all jump to. We want to execute on something. To your point, like the first step might just be, and I think it's a serious undertaking to get clarity what it is that you really want. And then from there, make the decisions and make sure they're top of mind. To your point, having a vision board and an accountability partner or something like that.
Yeah, having a coach. So speaking to someone like yourself to say, you know what, this has been turning over in my mind for a while now, and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe I need to explore that with some.
For those people out there who are like thinking, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and but I'm not a finance person. Like I'm not like a money person. Yes, I pay with my credit card, but actually I have no idea what runs through my account, and actually I don't want to face that reality right. What's their option?
Congratulations, you're stuck. Basically, that's what you're saying to me is, I don't wanna face my finances, and from my work with women who are in relationships where they're not the breadwinner or they don't control the finances, because I know lots of high earning women who still don't control the finances at home, which I'm like, "We really need to talk." And then what happens is you're in a default situation, like something happens and then you have no choice but to face your finances at that point. What's the alternative? You want to be in a scenario where you're dealing with your finances because you're in a crisis, or do you want to be proactive and feel in control of your finances? Those are the options. I find that unfortunately, for people who don't face their finances and they end up in a crisis, they just don't end up being in a scenario where they have as many options as somebody who decides, you know what, I don't want to face my finances. This is really scary. Get help. Like nobody's judging that. Like I understand. Like I'm the person who's afraid to look under my car hood to figure out what's going on there. I find that scary. But at the same time, I have a trusted mechanic who will take the time to help me understand. I don't always want to know everything, but I'm like, I really want to understand what's going on with my car. So if something happens, I'm on the road. And so if you're somebody who is really scared and doesn't want to deal with it, but understands it's important to, find somebody you can trust. Doesn't have to be me. Just find, I call myself a confidant because the people who I deal with feel like they can confide in me about their finances without judgment. Find your own confidant, someone who you can talk to, who you can actually have a conversation and say, I don't know. And I'm fearful about it. Or help me figure this all out. I know it's important and I don't want to be in a crisis situation figuring this out. I want to actually take the wheel and feel in control of my circumstances. So find your confidant. Definitely it's something that's better to deal with sooner rather than later.
Amazing. Jackie, for those who are listening who are like, yeah, Jackie sounds like an amazing person. I could say I think she's amazing. But for those that got that same impression, where can I learn more about you, about what you offer, and get more of your wisdom and insight when it comes to facing and handling my finances?
Feel free to check out our website, askjackie.ca. There's all kinds of resources there about money that you can dig into. You'll also be able to subscribe to my newsletter if you want to get info on different financial topics that we're talking about. If you're a woman or man, I found out recently a lot of men listen to my podcast as well, which I thought was kind of fun. I have a podcast called the High Earning Women Podcast, and we talk about life and legacy and just looking at different ways for us to talk about subjects matters that normally people feel are inaccessible. One of them is money, but we talk about life too. There's a lot of taboo subjects that we still don't feel like we can give ourselves permission to talk about. So I'm that person who loves embracing those things that are hard. But yes, feel free to check out those resources and let me know what you think.
Jackie, thank you so much for spending this half an hour with us here today. And what I learned is that it's so important seeing money not as a limitation, but learning to see money as liberation.
Ooh, I love.
With that, thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you for having me.